I'd like to welcome Nancy Easey from Germains into our video chat today, and we're going to ask her a few questions about the procurement of Documation solution. So Nancy, can you give us a little bit of information about you and how long you've been with Germains and your role?
Yeah, sure. So obviously my name's Nancy. I work for Germains Seeds technology, where I've worked there for actually 8 years now. So I've always really worked in finance, and starting from AP inputting all the way up to where I am now, which is central finance and project improvement manager. So what that means, apart from being a mouthful, that means that I am responsible for looking at the finance function as a whole and identifying any opportunities we may have to either streamline our processes or just all in all improve the ways that we are working. Yeah, whether it's through automation or improving our processes internally. So yeah, so you can imagine this year with COVID, this has been a very busy year for me.
Yes, I bet. So were you all office-based before, and are you all now remote?
Yeah, so we were full-time office-based before, and then at the moment we are a mixture, really. I would say we're probably 3 days at home and then 2 in the office, but we're still very much working from home at the moment, which brings its own opportunities with it.
So what changes did you have to implement when the lockdown happened as far as your processes were concerned?
So in terms of our processes, the main thing we had to change was to get away from being paper focused. So where we would originally print a lot of documents to get them signed, we now save them as PDFs and go through, approval routines, etc. That was our main fundamental change for us. A lot of our work is online because the typical finance with spreadsheets or ERP systems. It very much was obviously, any approvals. And then when I think about AP was the main function that then need to be tackled.
Okay. So how many team members do you have in your finance department?
So we operate in 4 different sites. So we have UK, Spain, Netherlands and US. And then we also have a central team as well. So all in all, within the finance function, I would say there's over 15 of us. But core AP inputters, there's 4. So there's 1 for each site.
Right. And roughly overall, how many invoices do you process?
Overall, we input 10,000 invoices a year. But that's as an overall for all 4 sites as well.
Okay. And what was your initial driver for AP automation?
So funnily enough, it wasn't COVID at all. We took on and Germains took on an initiative probably 3 years ago now, where we continue to look at our processes and highlight potential improvements that we could come up with. And actually 2 years ago, we came up with the idea of automating our accounts payable process. And that was always running in the background, starting the investigation. And then COVID hit, and then it became a lot more important and effectively went up the list. And that's why we started to focus on it, really.
And did you already have any other automation in place?
We do have part automation. We don't have any automation for AP, but we have a automation for our accounts receivable process. So we are used to the idea of trusting computers and trusting automation. We also have some automation in our selling prices as well. So it's not, completely out of the box for us.
Right. Okay. And what were the pain points that you were trying to solve? Why were you looking at automation for AP in the first place?
So one of the main drivers actually wasn't the AP automation as such, but the digital storage. We just wanted to be able to not have to rely on an accounts personnel to pull out an invoice and scan it in, etc. And when we're doing payment runs, we don't want to have to keep printing off all the purchase orders, etc. We wanted it all to be online. So from that perspective, it was as easy as possible for all stakeholders involved. And then the other reason the other driver again was, from our perspective, or my perspective at least, is accounts payable processing as a whole is a very non-value add task. It's not something that you need a person to be inputting into an ERP system. And to free up our actual finance members to be working on business partnering activities or general analysis instead of processing invoices, we really wanted to take that opportunity.
Right. Okay. What ERP do you use?
Sage Line 1000.
And you use that across all 4 sites?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
And thinking about the procurement process, what was on your wish list, if you like, when you were looking for a provider?
Our wish list really was that we needed to make sure that the support hours weren't UK focused, because, like I said, because we have the US site, we needed to make sure that the supplier either offered extended support hours or was able to work more than the 9 to 5 window. So that was a key factor. The other one was actually understanding how the US business works, because a couple of the, just from past automations that we've done, we've had suppliers who will promise, yes, we can do that. Yes, we can do that. However, because when we actually get to it, US is so different to EU that it just didn't work for whatever reason. The other selling points were to make sure that they were compliant with all financial control rules and or legalizations, and also IT. And that was the main.
So is that looking for something like an ISO certification?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So the fact that Documation ISO 27001 certified was a big tick for you?
Yes, a massive tick.
Okay, great. And what appealed to you about Documation other than the ISO certification?
So Documation, if I go software first, then I go to customer service and sales and everything like that. The actual software itself, as soon as I saw the first demo, was so user-friendly and so simple to use. And it was nice to see that you almost, from face value anyway, you almost didn't need training because it was so obvious what you needed to do. And that was very refreshing to see, because very often when it comes to systems I've seen before, they're too complicated for what they are. And, a new person would look at it and just spiral. So that was something from face value and first impressions, that's something that gripped me. In terms of the Documation team, the team have been amazing, really. They've bent over backwards for us, and Germains, because we're part of a larger company, we have a lot of financial control, a lot of tick boxes that we have, or check boxes that we need to tick, etc. So Alan and Nick really have bent over backwards for us and have answered so many questions. They've also, I believe, got the balance perfect between showing us that we should have confidence in what they're doing, because they're talking about their expertise and they know what they're doing. However, not being obnoxious and listening to what we have to say and saying, oh, okay, so maybe we can do it like this and blah, blah, blah. And that has been so refreshing to really see that Documation listen to their customers. Which is
great. I mean, that's a really important thing that we try, and instill in everyone in the team, is that we're all about listening. And that's, for us, you can't find out what people's issues are if you don't listen to what they're saying. It's all very well thinking in your mind that you've got the answer, but until you've heard what the question is, you don't really know. So that's really good to hear. Who else was involved in the selection process for the solution within Germains?
Within Germains?
And
myself, so we actually did the selection processes in a couple of stages, because with any project, obviously you're looking at other suppliers. So when we was very much at the start of the selection process, it was myself and then the IT business partner, from a fundamental functional purpose, can it deliver what we want? And then once we knew that was complete, or could be delivered, we then brought in the actual financial controller, as well as the core AP team, to say, okay, so we know that this system does deliver what our fundamental checks are. Now you have a look at it, because you are going to be the ones who use it. We need to make sure it's something that you are interested in and is user friendly for you. So stage 1 was myself and IT business partner. Stage 2 is when the financial controller and core AP team came into play.
And did you have any objections or hurdles you had to overcome with the sort of added stakeholders? Or
no more hurdles than what you would expect. Nothing that was actually directed to Documation, more just automation as a whole. How will it read this? And not really hurdles, just concerns and questions. I have to say this has been a very smooth process.
Great. We did a podcast called "Is Your Iceberg Melting?" or "Your Iceberg is Melting," and it was all about getting everybody on board. So it started in exactly the same way, and it's all about penguins on an iceberg, and they think their iceberg's melting, and they have to go off and find a new home. And there's the doubters, and then there's the objectioners, and then there's the people that are very for it. And it's all about how to get them all into a team together based on this children's book, which is absolutely brilliant. I think it's a really great. John Cotter it's written by, if you ever need to use it for a team. And you can identify the penguins, and you can be like, oh, he's like so-and-so penguin, and she's like...
exactly.
It's quite interesting, but that's good to know that you had a fairly smooth process through that. That's great.
And I'm a great believer that the more you involve particularly the individuals who could be more resistant, shall we say, the more you involve them very much at the start, it just makes the process so much easier.
Absolutely. Is there anything you think we could have done better during the procurement process?
So I've been thinking about this back and forth for the last week, and I honestly, hand on heart, I want to say no, because I have had I've had no negative experiences. Everything that we've asked has either been honest and said, no, we can't do that, but this is what we can do, or we don't suggest that you do it this way, or yes, of course, let's organise a demo, whatever it will be. Emails, queries answered like that. A great mixture of phone calls versus emails, so you're getting, the personal touch, but also you can't be on the phone all the time. And I wouldn't say there's anything that myself and the IT manager, because I've obviously worked closely with him through this, would change on this process. There's not one thing.
That's good to
hear. Which I know is sometimes not great to hear, because you always want to know, but
that's great. And I guess going on from that, is there anything you can give us that could help us develop our sales processes for the future? Is there anything you think that maybe early stage we could have done better, perhaps when you were looking for an AP automation solution provider? Did you not find us very easily, or what? So
that is one thing that I had wrote on here. So I found Documation through Google search, but I didn't find them to find yourself straight away. I had to dig, which was great, because I found the diamond, but it wasn't easy to find. So if I had found a supplier who had met all our needs beforehand, I probably wouldn't have kept digging. And that's the only thing. I only found you through Google.
Yeah. Okay.
That could have been because I also wasn't looking in the right channels as well.
Where else would you look? Should you, if given the chance again?
I would personally. Because we're a big company, we always first check with our sister companies to see who they're using and see, is it something that fits our needs? So that's always our first step, really. And then after that, I would go to Google. I don't know where else I would go.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, no criticisms there, just interesting.
No, I'm just trying to. Yeah, I mean, you've got LinkedIn and you've got finance magazines, etc. But the easiest one for me personally is Google.
Right. Okay. And then looking to the future, it's your job basically to evaluate processes. You've explained that at the beginning. So what are you looking at next? Is there any more automation or? anything else in your sort of view that you're looking to automate?
Yeah, so there is actually, and it is very much phase 2 of this whole automating AP. That doesn't, necessarily mean that will be Documation, but it's phase 2, and that's automating our credit cards and expenses.
Right.
So I'm fully aware that that is something that you offer.
Right. Okay. Great. And lastly, if you could sum up Documation in one sentence, what would it be?
Customer focused, approachable, and then well balanced between delivering a service, demonstrating their expertise, while always listening.